All right, guys, welcome back to another Meet the Candidate. Tonight's candidate is the incumbent in the Tvlse District Seat B, Leonard Gouge. Mr. Gouge, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
You're welcome.
I guess to start off with, tell us about yourself and if you have plans for your next term, if you're reelected, what are they?
Well, when I started this, let me start off with this. Before I became a council representative, I was the chairman of Coweta Indian Community. After that, I was chairman of Tulsa Community. And I was also selected to be on the citizenship board by former chief. And then came in and was selected to be on Chief Hill's commission about 5 years ago in the area of Indian Child Welfare. So with that, I was still attending my Tulsa community meetings, and it brought to my attention that I've done everything else. Why not run for council? And then I ran for council, and it's what happened. So I'm in my fourth year there. My platform then was to get rid of at will. My second or third month in there, I tried to pass a bill that didn't pass. And they said try to do it another way, and so I've been working with the HR office trying to get that accomplished. So it's taking me this long to try to get close to that. The other part of this, I've been doing Indian Child Welfare for the past 36 years for various tribes: Seminole Nation, Creek Nation, and now the Cherokee Nation. In doing that, my goal is to still work with Indian Child Welfare to protect children across the United States, which I have been doing all over Oklahoma and across the United States, physically being there, working with the attorneys and judges and districts over there. So I've been doing that, trying to protect families and children, doing adult protective services, protect the seniors. And that's what I want to continue to try to do. And also, if I get reelected, well, during this term also is to get a cemetery for the veterans and citizens. It's sad to say, but we're after a cemetery with the Veterans Affairs Office to take care of our veterans. I talked to Grover Wind a month ago, and I said, how many people have been asking to be brought back to the cemetery? He said 85 at the time. That was a month ago. I'm sure that's increased since then. What's sad to say is we're trying to take care of our citizens at death when we should be trying to do more while they're walking instead of when it's time for them to lay down. But that's my goal.
All righty. And guys, I want to remind you, if you have a question, pop it in the chat. I'm going to prioritize chat questions, and if we get through all the chat questions, we'll move to the email questions. But let's go ahead and jump into the chat questions here. David Ware says, Mado to the candidate for his military service. Please ask him to outline the time that he was in and where he was assigned.
Oh, my first duty station was Fort Stewart, Georgia. That was a great time because I got to go to Savannah, Georgia, and I noticed that at every park there was a monument rock that referred to creeks. Even at the river walk at the border down there by the shore there, it still referred to creeks. So when my sister came down to visit me, I took her all these places and showed her around, and that there's sites and history and recognition of creeks down there. As I've been on the council, I never made it back down there. I've never been back to the homelands we refer to. I've never been there yet, but there may be a time I need to go, but I don't see that time happening right now. After that, I went as a Fort Stewart, Georgia. I went to Germany, Stuttgart, Germany. I was 1st Infantry Division. I just might be dating myself a little bit, but I was detached to be patrol the Czechoslovakian border. That's before the wall came down. And I've done that. Been to Mojave Desert for training out there. After that, I went to Afghanistan. Well, prior to Afghanistan, I was called to do a drill sergeant duty. I pushed a little over 2,000 troops to support the effort of 9/11. And after that, I myself went to Afghanistan, spent 15 months over there. Was decorated with a Bronze Star.
All right. T.Y. Prohl's asking, will you sponsor or co-sponsor legislation before the next regular session of the National Council to vote on the compliance measures requested in Executive Order 25-05 to comply with Order in SC 23-02?
Can you refer to the name of that, what those legislations are?
Well, I think what he's referring to is Chief recently issued that executive order about the Friedman decision saying we're going to work
Oh,
on the,
yes.
he's asking, are you going to sponsor or co-sponsor any changes in that in the next session?
I would. I mean, we got the issue is trying to clarify what steps and what corrections we need to make to ensure the process of all that. Now, doing what's best for everyone, we want to ensure we're doing the right thing because I'd hate to hear somebody saying they're being denied because we weren't prepared for that. So to avoid all those little mishaps, I would like to see if we're prepared and ready to do that. Then I wouldn't mind sponsoring legislation to move forward because Supreme Court made a decision. It's up to the legalese to decide if there's anything else to be done. But if it's completed and done and we're through with it, then let's move forward.
Alrighty. T.Y. Prohl asks, do you support increasing the school clothing donation allocation?
Yes, I do. I mean, I'm after to take care of the kids. Uh, if it's federally funded, then we're limited to that. But we can also pitch in some of the tribal money for that because clothes are expensive. Everything's going up. People have more than one child, and it's just a bad time all the way around. But I wouldn't mind sponsoring that.
Alrighty. T.Y. Prohl asks, do you support changing the age of elder services eligibility?
I attended some of those meetings. Uh, Second chief was there. There's a lot of people at the table, and second chief was very concerned about that. And my concern was, are we leaving anybody out by raising the age? There's some areas where we weren't providing service to Moore Creek citizens, so we were agreed to close some of those down, but still feed those citizens there. There's some areas where there's a lot of creeks attending, and they were 55 and older. There's financial issues there they need to discuss. But the concern, along with second chief, is are we cutting anybody out of 1 meal a day or possibly 2 meals a day? So studies have been going out to find out if we're losing anybody or denying anybody of food. And the other part of that is we're inching this forward 55, maybe 60, 63, and we stopped right there because we're at the table discussing this. We're not actually out there checking and determining are we cutting anybody out. So at that meeting, the time was looking at 63 was going to be the age, but this question was still out there going, who are we not feeding out there? Because we want to feed everyone.
Okay. T.Y. Prohl asks, do you support increasing the allocation for the emergency hardship program?
Yes, because with that, there had to be some standards there for that. At Tulsa Community, I created a hardship program over there, but that hardship program was to capture the people who fell through the cracks. If they went to Creek Nation to apply for their services and they were denied because they made $68 over, because that's one incident that occurred. They made $68 too much, so they couldn't apply for that kind of funding, but yet they still had issues to get to work and get home from work. They tried to apply for some other service, but they were denied. With that information, they brought back to Tulsa Community. We created a hardship program, and they applied for that, and they got their assistance through us. So yes, I do agree that we need to raise that because everything is going up, and there's going to be cuts.
Yep. T.Y. Prohl asks, do you support putting term limits for all elected officials on the ballot?
Yes, probably 3 terms.
Okay.
Is what I'm thinking.
All righty. T.Y. Prohl asks, do you support legislation to vote on requiring that judges stand for votes of retention by the people during regular elections?
I wonder if that would be during the term for a chief. There was questions about the election for Seat B that we don't get that many voters, and they said there's more votes that come in when the chief is election. So that's every 4 years. So I can see that, but then if we look at it every 2 years, I'm fine with that also because we need to have a check and balance to make sure everybody is taking along the same path here and doing the right thing here. So I would agree to do that.
All righty. Let's see here. I'm trying to see where I'm at. T.Y. Prohl asks, Do you support the Citizenship Board changing to the Rogers-St. Cloud factor tests the federal government uses to define who is Indian under federal law to comply with Order SC 23-10 for the new enrollment standards to be enacted?
The new enrollment standards for who?
Well, I think what I'm just going to, and forgive me, T.Y. Pearl, if I get your question wrong here, but I think what he's asking is, he or she is asking is, we are going to need to pass some new citizenship standards or something for citizenship to comply, like Chief's executive order. And he's asking if you would support using the Rogers-St. Cloud test, which is a series of factors that the United States court system uses to determine if a criminal defendant is an Indian for terms of federal law, right, or federal court.
That's kind of a legal question. And then that's also left up to the Citizenship Board, which I was chairman of before. And then it should be the same standards as any other Creek citizens now becoming members of the tribe. We have a standard also to become a member of the tribe, and we shouldn't let anybody else determine who our members are.
Okay. T.Y. Pearl asks, what is your position on pretendians and wannabe tribes? How do you define them?
Just like I said earlier, there's a standard of how to become federally recognized. We all went through what all the tribes went through to try to determine if their status as a federally recognized tribe, and there's state tribes out there. We should all be trying to go through the same standard. I agree with Chief when he made reference to NCAI, saying there's state tribes in there who's reaping the benefits of a federally recognized tribe and getting the money for that. There's one standard we should follow.
All right, let me flip this thing. T.Y. Pearl's asking me a question. T.Y., you said you posted a question about treason petition on judges. I don't see that, and I'm thinking we had a problem with another question that you asked in a previous video. I think YouTube may be blocking your questions or something because of specific keywords in there. Is there any way you could give me your question again on the judges that doesn't have treason in it? Because I'm scrolling through what I can see on my end. I asked your question about judges standing for votes of retention, but I don't see any question that has the word treason in it. So I'm just going to keep going. If you can try, I think that word is making YouTube block your question. I can't see it in here, so maybe reword it a little bit. Where were we? We were just talking about Rogers-St. Cloud. Pretendians and wannabe tribes. T.Y. Pearl is asking, what will you do to support clearing the long housing wait lists in the Tulsa area? Will you support legislation that a certain percentage of units on the Southern Villa Tiff Riverline development be reserved for clearing the Tulsa wait lists, 130 households?
I'm for anything that's going to improve our living conditions. I'm for anything that's going to get housing started. Housing has always been an issue, and housing has federal guidelines they have to comply with. There's also been brought up the question about making a citizenship board over housing to discuss that. There's also been questions about who's on this list next to get a house, who could jump who on the list to get the house. There's multiple issues with housing. There's multiple issues with units, and it's cheaper to make homes or apartments down south than it is in the Tulsa area. So then there's the matter of money being applied to those areas. Do we put all our money in one area and avoid the other areas? We have Creeks across the nation, across our reservation here, who all deserve the same opportunities. So a lot of variables come into play here, how to satisfy the majority, and we're not going to help everybody, but we're going to try to help the most we can. That's what we should be doing, to be fair and do what's right. Sometimes those two things aren't the same thing, but we need to do what we can for our citizens at most, instead of just for a certain few.
Okay. Let's see here. Abalove asks, how do you feel about the Supreme Court decision concerning freedmen? And she also says, thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you. You know, in the past, we all relied on exhausting our resources, exhausting our efforts, and the last bit is going to the Supreme Court. Everything goes to the Supreme Court, and they have the final say so. Well, this situation, there's people who don't like the final decision, but that's what we all grew up learning to say is exhaust our remedies, and the Supreme Court is the end of our remedies. And if they want to take it to federal court, which I'm not sure if that's the right decision to make, but I'm not the legal person to make that decision. The council can decide things too as a whole, but if that's what the Supreme Court agreed to, then that's what we have to live with. And goes back to the Citizenship Board, give them opportunity to make things right so we can move forward.
All righty. Let's see here. Abalove asks, who has the last say so judicially in the Creek Nation? And it sounds like you've already answered that by saying the Supreme Court does. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
All righty. Okay, here we go. Okay, I can see this question now, T.Y. Prola, and I'm going to put the word that YouTube didn't let you put in your thing back in. Because T.Y. Prola asks, there is a petition to impeach the Supreme Court justices for the word that must not be said. I guess that's the treason part, for violating the Constitution in the Freedman decision. Do you support it, and will you sign it?
I was told about this. I had seen people, there's groups out there that asked me to sign, and I said, I'm a little vague about how the process works, but the council has a role in this if they get the names together, and it's probably best for me not to sign because I may have to play a part in this role, and I want to be neutral until that time because I don't want to tarnish my responsibilities if I sign.
Okay. ML asks, Mr. Gouge, can you tell us a little bit about your service in the military? What branch? ML, we covered that earlier in the video, so you can rewind it and check that out. Or if you can't rewind it right now, just wait till it's over. Mr. Gouge speaks about his service earlier in the video. Oh, go ahead, sir, if you'd like to.
I'll say it was Army. I was in the Army.
Right.
Nothing against Marines. My dad was a Marine, but
get to start a fight. All right. All right. So right now, I don't see any more questions in the chat. So I'm going to move over. Oh, wait. One just popped up. T.Y. Proles asking, if legislation is sponsored to allocate funding to appeal the Freedman decision to federal courts, like with Strobel, will you vote to support it?
Well, yes, because it's another effort to be made. We need to exhaust all efforts, and if the end result's still the same, it's something we have to live with. But if there's a change, then let's go with that. I mean, we have to funnel all this down to a final decision here, and give everybody opportunity to help or have input into that decision, so we can be done with it and move forward, whatever that decision may be.
All right. So that question exhausted the chat questions. I'm going to ask some questions that are on our email list here, if that's okay with you. The first one is, or well, not the first one, but are you a citizen of any federally recognized tribal town?
No, sir.
All right. Do you think it's a conflict of interest to be, for instance, in one of the federally recognized tribal towns' governments and in the Creek Nation government?
Yes, I do, and let me say why. If a person is a member of one of the tribal towns, which is also federally recognized, I think there should be an agreement not to have all services, but an agreement to share services possibly, but not to be able to say, I belong to this group over here and I'm sitting on that council, so I have a right to sit on this council over here. I think that's a conflict of interest.
Okay.
And if we want to use, and that's pretty much it right there.
All right. All righty. Elijah B is asking, do you support drug and alcohol tests? And Elijah, I'll just let you know that already Creek Nation employees are subject to random drug tests, so that they're already getting tested, if that's what you're asking. If you're asking about council members or somebody else, could you pop that into the chat, and I'll ask that more specific question. But and just if you want to go ahead and answer, Mr. Gouge.
Yes, I do. I was part of the meeting where we talked about people who had the medical marijuana cards. Mm-hmm. And how do we utilize that? And how can we meet their needs for their medicated, I guess. And there's always the issue that, well, do they drive heavy equipment? Are they driving a vehicle? They're making critical decisions for families, just like in child welfare. It's almost daily I have to make life-changing decisions for somebody. Somebody's going to be a parent today, and somebody's not going to be a parent tomorrow. Those situations, somebody's going to hate you, or somebody's going to love you. The medical marijuana card is always an issue of safety. I'll throw this in there too. At our ceremonial ground, this year we started enforcing we don't want marijuana at our ceremonial ground. Everybody's there to be clean, purify themselves, take the medicine, fast, and then it's being disrupted by people smoking marijuana out there. We had meetings with our members there. They're aware that they shouldn't be smoking either. We've walked around our grounds in the evening time when we were dancing, and we found people. We asked them to leave. We found people. We had Light Horse help us out, and they had the dogs out there. We found people who had it in their car. We tell them to dispose of it. We'll dispose of it for you if you want to stay. If you think you can't dispose of that, then we ask you to leave. Some people thought that was rude, but I think it's rude to come to the ceremonial ground thinking you're going to smoke that stuff when we're trying to be clean and purified and practice our religious belief. All
right. I don't see any questions here in chat. So what's your opinion on the district voting amendment that's on the ballot?
That's my thought about this is I understand there are some districts who wants district voting because they can somewhat control the voting. And there's other areas where they want it open. The other areas are saying there's other tribes fighting for their voting rights. There's other tribes want to make sure they have voting rights. And why is your tribe trying to limit somebody's voting rights? That's another observation of this. That's a good view. I've asked about, can a person sign, or when they vote, should they just vote for a few, the ones they know, and leave the others blank? Will it still count? They said, yes, it'll still count. So I said, so why are we going through this when they already have the right to vote for somebody or not vote for somebody? But it's a matter of the people. That's what I voted for. Brings it up to the people, let them vote, let them decide. And once they decide, either way, we'll have to support it.
Okay. Let's see here. I'm going to I don't see a question in the chat here, so I'm going to try to pull one here. Are you familiar with the MCN Priority Climate Action Plan? And how will you work on the council if elected to, or re-elected in this case, to enact the recommendations in the plan and facilitate meeting its goals?
The Climate Reaction Plan. I'm thinking that's the same as the database stuff, the climate surveys.
Well, the MCN Priority Climate Action Plan is a plan that was published by the executive branch, and it outlines steps the nation needs to take to combat climate change and things like that, and energy insecurity.
Okay. Yeah. Anything to improve the tribe. Yes.
Okay.
But to ensure, I'll say the tribe, but I don't want them stepping over anybody's rights and privileges. But if it's going to endanger the ecosystem, yes, we need to discuss that and work that out.
All right. T.Y. Prohl asks, please ask if he supports appealing the Bigler dual citizenship ruling in district court to the Supreme Court. And if you're not familiar with that, I don't know if you are, that Judge Bigler was in the district court, ruled on a previous candidate in a previous election, and ruled that that candidate could have dual citizenship in a federally recognized tribal town and the Creek Nation and run for office. And that case was never appealed to the Supreme Court. So T.Y. Prohl is asking, would you support appealing that district court decision that allowed dual citizenship to the Supreme Court?
I remember that case. I don't know if I'm saying this right. Hobai or
Yeah, Jeremiah Hobaya, that's correct.
Hobai? Yes. Uh, yes, I would, because it's a question that needs to be answered. We need to figure out where we're at.
Yes, sir. All right. Is there anything, I'm running low on questions on my end, and I wanted to ask you, is there anything that's central to your campaign, an issue that we haven't talked about? I know we've asked a lot of different questions. Is there something you want to get in? Because we're at 25 minutes and we normally wrap up about 30, but is there something you wanted to talk about we haven't talked about?
Well, yes, as a veteran, when I came in the office, I think it was my third week there. I went over to the Veteran Affairs office and I told them I am a veteran. How can I help? How can I support? And they kind of questioned me about my veteran status. I said, here's my DD 214. I said, how come you don't have a vest? I said, well, when y'all were offering vests, I was in Afghanistan in a combat zone, and y'all denied me because I wasn't able to be there. They said, well, we'll correct that. And they said, what are you decorated? I said, yes, I'm going to have Bronze Star. He said, well, what do you think? I said, well, we need to put a committee together to address PTSD. And they agreed. They said, only veterans will talk to veterans who wore the uniform, and they'll open up to them. So we created a committee, but we meet monthly. We're on the ground level, but we're moving to make something happen. And we have Seminole Nation and some other tribes interested in this and coming together. And we're looking at doing things and trying to move forward with this stuff, because it's an area that hasn't been addressed, I'm thinking. And to move forward with that, there's a lot of people who have an interest in this.
All right.
And also with the cemetery.
Okay. T.Y. Pearl asks, what will you do to support food sovereignty and conservancy on the reservation and the Wildlife Department, Conservation District, and College of Mvskoke Nation Extension Office?
I watched all the videos with the Extension Office. The Conservation, I sit in their meetings. They actually came to the Veterans Affairs Committee and did a presentation, which my one question was, y'all catch the hogs? They said, yeah, we catch the hogs. We catch everything. I said, do you catch Bigfoot? And the comment was, they said, no, we haven't, but we have somebody who's seen it. So great. That's the person I want to talk to. But I'm supportive of all that stuff. We need to look at all areas besides, every area is important. There's multiple fronts, and we need to address all of that. We just can't focus on one area and avoid the other areas.
Okay. T.Y. Prohl's asking, do you support getting College of Mvskoke Nation accredited as a 4-year university?
Yes, I do. We said that in the beginning. Well, my first 4-year term, I said that in the beginning. Now his concern over there is to get language going. I'm all for language also. I went over to Cherokee Nation with their program over there, which is, they are more advanced than we are. They have more money than we have to make that happen, but it is a roadway that we should be observing to see how we can make it work for us.
Okay. T.Y. Prohl asks, do you believe the Indian Arts and Crafts Act is adequately enforced on the reservation to protect against frauds?
No, it's not adequately enforced, because we don't have people out there specifically for that checking things. I mean, we're limited on manpower. We're limited on officers. So yes, it all needs to be enforced more stringently.
Okay. All right. This is T.Y. Prohl's asking a funny question here, but Fumby or Chumby?
When I eat squirrel soup, I'm looking for Fumby.
All right. All righty. Okay, guys. David Ware's asking, and you may have already said this, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it, and we can get that specific information. Did you retire? And I think he's talking about your military service. Did you retire, or how long were you in the military?
I retired 28 years.
All right. Well, we are at 29 minutes.
I'll say this.
Oh, go ahead.
I retired as a master sergeant for 28 years. If you know anything about the military, I didn't have any corrective actions, meaning I didn't have anything against me. I wasn't penalized for anything. I didn't get a reduction in rank or anything. I made it through 28 years.
All right. Well, we are at 30 minutes exactly, and there's no more questions in the chat. I'm going to look at my questions here real quick. Oh, there's one more thing I could ask you about. what's your opinion on the situation with the Cherokee Nation and the UKB? Is there some? Do you want to? I know that there's legislation that Senator Mullen was going to bring, and then there was legislation that recently was shut down at the Creek Nation. Could you give us some of your insight on that?
Well, there's three federally recognized tribes of Cherokees: Cherokee Nation, Katuas, and the Eastern Band Cherokees. And my opinion was always that's their argument among themselves, and we don't have any issues with that. I mean, because that's their decisions they have to make that they have to live with. And the Cherokees North Carolina hasn't jumped in on this. And I'm thinking, why are we going to jump in on it when all three tribes aren't coming together to figure this out? So that was my opinion. I voted no to. I voted yes for the to kill the bill.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in tonight. Next week, on the 8th, we have Ashley Wolf Voice at 6 p.m. And then on Thursday, the 11th, we have Thomasine Osborne. And then on the 12th, we have Jessina Brown. Both of those are at 6 p.m. So tune in and ask your questions there. And we'll see you guys next time. Mado, Hadum, Chihichat, Lise.